government is mandated to facilitate safe travels and also when they're in these particular areas. But of late, since 2005, government of Uganda discovered that there were opportunities in the Middle East. They were yearning for people to go and carry out a lot of work ranging from security, marketing, and other avenues. However, also another sector was domestic workers. These had great market, but had to be regulated. And over the years, we had seen challenges. We'd seen social media kind of images, people crying out, our girls, that they are going through tough programs there and harsh treatments. But what happened? Government of Uganda still came up with regulations to regulate this sector specifically, among others. And with me today, I'm privileged to have, that is a man who has been in this business, that is externalization of labor for some time. That is Achech Tandwe, who happens to be the director in Jersey, but also the former vice president, UWERA, which is a body that brings together companies in this job. Recently, government revised the laws again. That was on the 27th of last month, and came up with more tightening of the gaps that had been over a time identified by those in the business, but also those that are seeking greener pastures outside Uganda. And today I want to look at the new guidelines and their impact on externalization of labor. Ashe, you're most welcome to our studios this
Thank
morning.
you very much, Robert. Good morning, viewers.
Well, would I say this is a painful joy? Because for a long time you've been bringing out some of the gaps that have to be addressed.
Right.
And when we see government coming up and saying, yes, these are the new guidelines that are going to be followed, we'll be discussing them because there are not many,
right,
maybe one by one for the benefit of our viewer also to understand,
right,
and those in the business as well, maybe who may not have known,
right,
as of now.
Right.
Cabinet came up with these guidelines. First was that all these companies, we have 216
right,
registered companies, all licensed by government.
Right.
Of course, we also have crooks there, but those that are licensed by government.
Right.
And it's saying first it has to be owned entirely by Ugandans.
Oh yes, Robert. The reason why the government came up with that was that they found out that there were some people that who were foreigners, and they were hiding behind certain Ugandans to own these companies. So that's why they came up with that particular guideline, and I think it's promoting Ugandans basically, just like Bubu, buy Uganda, build Uganda, and I think that is okay. And for me, I don't see any problem with that. I think it's a very positive thing, and we should be able to take it on well, because if you're Ugandan, you know the pain of your fellow Ugandans, and you follow through, But if you're not Ugandan, for example, if you have any challenges that are very serious, you may opt out just to disappear and stuff like that. So I think it's a very a good guideline, and I believe the government did that in a very sober way. Yes, please.
How does this promote, that is labor externalization? Because most of the companies that we are talking about are really exporting labor, that is, right, to the United Arab Emirates, that is the Middle East basically. These are the countries. So how does this in any way, because I know of companies where someone once worked there, maybe as a security guard,
right,
worked as even housemaids. I've seen them.
Right.
They come back, they have had connections there now, they know how business runs, they partner with maybe their former bosses, and they co-own a company. So how does this then promote the sector in any way?
No, it does protect the sector in this way, Robert. One, if you have Ugandans who have sought opportunities out of the country, they should respect the law of the land. And in this case, if you've gone to work abroad and yes, you found a partner there to partner with, you should do that respecting the law of the land. That means that one, if our guidelines are very clear. Secondly, if you focus on the welfare of Ugandans, it's only a Ugandan that will understand a fellow Ugandan. Because remember, now you're out of the country. And there are very many things that happen out of the country. So you need someone who will understand. And that's why, Robert, like I told you last time, we have, for example, my company, Jersey Limited, I have 5 people, a full manager and 4 supervisors to monitor the welfare of fellow Ugandans. So if you're going to work with a foreign agency or a foreigner in this case, you need to have clear guidelines because the regulations are very, very clear, and they stipulate how and when to do what. So I think it's a very good thing, but also it promotes our own homegrown people as well. Yes, Robert.
Well, I want to connect that also with another revised guideline, which is the value of the bank guarantee,
right,
to settle claims or complications in case a worker has a problem that a company has been putting, which has been 50 million. Now it's risen to 100 million.
Right.
Some of the people in this sector are saying this is going to cause monopoly, and they believe maybe the likes of Jersey and other companies that are well established are looking for ways of either hindering others from coming into the business or putting out others. Because now, if I can no longer partner with someone who isn't a Ugandan, maybe they have the money, and now it has to be solely on me. I have to raise 100 million shillings already. That is just bank guarantee before anything. So how does this also aid maybe more companies? How does this aid more opportunities abroad for Ugandans?
Right, Robert, I think the whole idea of the bank guarantee, as a sector, we submitted our submissions to the ministry, and we shared our concerns in that particular area. But the ministry decided to go ahead and pass this, of course with cabinet and stuff. And for me, I wouldn't want to look at it in a very negative way. I think it's building capacity to be able to handle all these queries, because now the ministry pointed out a particular company that had a few issues here and there, and they were unable to compensate all these candidates that whose money they had received. So when they went to tap into the bank guarantee, they realized that the money they had was not enough to cover those costs. So I think the ministry is trying to handle that from that perspective, and that's why they went ahead to decide like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that is for the benefit. Well, we are still looking at the new guidelines by the ministry, which we believe are aimed at saving Ugandans, promoting the safety of Ugandans when they're out there. More so when we look at that is those in the United Arab Emirates, and also very importantly, where we've seen a number of not very pleasing reports that have been coming up, which in a long run would taint Uganda's relationship with these countries, whether Ugandans go and work. We must remember that one time the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia almost suspended, that is, domestic workers in this country. Reason being because of the enormous and ending comments, footages, clips that were coming out, and they believed, well, this is tainting us. So if you have the Philippines here working and we don't have the same issue, maybe we'll do it with Uganda. So government says, let's ensure we streamline this. Let's ensure I tighten the grip to have basic people come in. Actually, let's look at also, we've seen so much advancement.
Right.
Advert after advert. Those that are genuine, those are not genuine. Someone promises heaven and on earth once you go to their company and get employment. Now government comes out and says all these adverts must be first approved by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development for you to advertise.
Right.
We are looking at business.
Right.
There are those that believe business is about persuading a person. The more you persuade a person, the more you make money.
Right. Right. Robert, what I can say there is that we've had challenges. Very many fake companies actually have been advertising. It's very unbelievable. It's been happening. But the government coming out to say that all adverts have to be vetted and approved by the ministry. On the other hand, it's advantageous to our sector, for us who are registered and doing this, following the law. Because at the end of the advert, I expect to see something like approved by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. It's an addition to what you would have advertised. But also, on the other hand, is to communicate the issue of money. Because you see, last time, Robert, you raised an issue of charges. Why are people charged exorbitantly and stuff like that? That would be explained. Because remember, all these job orders now, they will be first of all vetted by the embassies, our different missions out of the country. So when the missions have vetted these particular job orders, remember they also have to visit these foreign agencies where our Ugandans are going to be employed and stuff like that. So after the embassy has done that, the issue of charges and stuff like that are discussed or are mentioned in that particular job order process. So in the end, it will be very clear. So if that is done like that, by the time the ministry approves the adverts and it's out there to the public, it means it would have been properly vetted, on point, and also the charges will be clear, rather than promising this and that. So I think that's why the ministry came up with that. But I think I don't see any problem with that. For us, in our sector, we believe that it's the right direction, and it will answer very many questions of all charges and stuff like that. Yes, Robert.
Well, this brings me to a very interesting part of these regulations where I want to commend government so much, and the underlying ministry, that is Gender, Labour and Social Development. That is on charges that are being charged by these companies. Why it comes out and says for domestic workers it has to be free of charge. Everything is catered for according to the new guidelines. That no person who is leaving Uganda for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where I think that is where we so far have a memorandum of understanding or an agreement with them to export or externalize labor. Actually, this has been a challenge, and I've been talking to a number of people running these companies that are registered. That is a 216. And this issue seems to be a hard nut to crack on your side as people in this business. Where is the complicity? Where is the complication into this?
Truth of the matter, Robert, is that we normally get different job orders from different countries, and because of that, some of them we get them through HR consultancies. Company X in Dubai, for example, will have opportunities for 300 Ugandans, but it contacts an HR consultancy in Dubai to source for these Ugandans. Of course, work with the Ugandan company to source for these Ugandans. So that HR consultant or consultancy will have to charge us for some commission for getting us these opportunities. So that commission is what the candidates seeking these opportunities have to pay, because the company doesn't have that money to pay. So in the end, we are also put in a very interesting situation where we have to ask the candidates to actually pay this money. So that's where it comes from. But if there are bilateral agreements, like for example in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the one we have with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then that middleman is cut out, Robert. And that's why for us we are saying, let us push for more bilateral agreements, then we cut out this middleman, because when you sign these bilateral agreements, they cover all jobs. So the middleman has nowhere to stand. So that is why we are pushing for that. And for me, I believe that if we sign more bilateral agreements, like for example, Robert, for the United Arab Emirates, that MOU was signed, but the implementation had a few challenges here and there that right now I know the government is going to be able to see it through, because the biggest issues we've been having have been coming from the UAE. So that is the whole point, Robert. But for me, I believe it's a very positive thing, and we need to see how we can expedite these bilateral signings and stuff like that.
Well, all these have come with penalties, and I've always asked myself, even when we had, we thank the Lord, maybe it has been due to COVID. COVID has also been a painful joy in some ways. It has saved us a couple of issues, because we no longer have this so much, the media being washed by videos of these girls suffering, acting more or less in modern day slavery and all this. But actually, government now revises the penalty. It says from 3 months to 5 years imprisonment. All that is one will have to pay that is a currency points not exceeding 1,000 currency points or both. We've had so many stories of mistreatment in these countries. We've had so many stories of unprofessionalism, but we've not secured convictions. I don't know, because it's law of the judiciary, or even with these, yes, this punishment sounds so deterrent that a person now sleep for 5 years, either Chita or wherever it is, or pay these currency points. 1,000, that's a lot of money. But will this in any way, given the issues of supervision, monitoring, deter first trafficking? Because it's the biggest challenge we have. Deter trafficking, like Africa. But even when we've had companies, will this also deter the youth are registered from these gaps that cause a lot of tainting to the image of our country?
Right. Robert, I need to make this categorically clear. That is focused on human traffickers. That is trafficking now. Yes, the government had to come out like that, strongly like that, because we've had people who have pretended to be registered companies, and yet they are not. So they traffic Ugandans. For example, Robert, let me bring this out. Are you aware that most people are trafficked to the UAE? You know why? Because getting a visa to the UAE is an online thing, and it takes 2 days to have a visa, a visit visa. So they go as visitors, get there, and then try to find opportunities. So if you're caught doing that, then yes, those are the repercussions. Secondly, if for us as companies, the videos you're talking about, in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, you realize that before we had videos coming from Oman and all these other countries, okay? Yes, are you aware that we don't have a labor bilateral agreement with Oman? But imagine, the number estimated to be in Oman is about 30,000 Ugandans.
Yes, that we have with Qatar, but also you have almost the same number.
Yes, but for Qatar, let me explain this, Robert, properly. When we have a bilateral agreement, or where we have a bilateral agreement, that is where we send domestic workers. But other categories, they can actually go and work. Where we don't have bilateral agreements, we don't send domestic workers.
But what happened to the Kingdom of Jordan, still on that same issue? At one time, I remember like we had something with the African Kingdom of Jordan.
Right.
But then later, I hear we no longer have this agreement with the Kingdom of Jordan.
Right.
What went wrong?
Yeah, the government found a few concerns in certain areas of the implementation of what was agreed in that bilateral agreement, and it suspended it. Yeah. So for me, I think that is a very good thing, because once the government realizes that there are concerns in areas of welfare and stuff like that, they can anytime suspend this. So for me, I think it's a positive thing. But on the other hand, Robert, we need to realize that if people do not desist from being trafficked, we'll continue having such things. And yes, sometimes you have people who are distressed. It's true, they went through proper channels, but they are distressed. In many cases, such people lack information. And the government has come out to say, now we are deploying 2 labor attaches at the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, where we have a labor bilateral agreement. And their work is to vet foreign agencies, follow up on complaints, in case of any mistreatment, yes, they follow up on that, and handle any other issues that may have come up. So I think for me that is a positive thing, and that's what we've been asking government to do for us. We need labor attaches at all our embassies where we're deploying Ugandans, so that the consular part is fully taken care of. So right now in the new regulations they're saying 2 labor attaches at the Embassy of Saudi Arabia, 1 at the Embassy of UAE, and then 1 in Qatar as well. And this is a very good step, because that's what we've been asking for. We need that. So our teams, the ones I spoke about that we deploy in these foreign agencies, will now work hand in hand with the labor attaches, of course, at the embassy, to make sure that in case there are issues that can be taken care of and handled in real time. Yes, Robert.
Well, actually, also another issue is pre-orientation training that is best from Uganda, where these girls, now we are focusing on domestic workers particularly, will have to undergo some training. I think it has been just a week's time previously, and to ensure that they prepare them before they leave. Now, with this, I have a concern that over a time I've interested myself so much in labor externalization, and I've found out that one, maybe lack of enough centers, that is one, because if you look at the way this business, allow me to call it that, that's growing day by day.
Service, Robert. Okay, we can go ahead. But it's a service
not government organizations. There's an element of profit somewhere, somehow. So what happens is, when we talk about departure training, how prepared are we as a country to meet the demand? Because one of the biggest challenges has been delayed leaving, this bureaucracy, this, that, and that, and that. That when someone is desperate to go for employment and they are told that, look, if a housemaid in Uganda, those that are paid well could be earning 200. When you're going to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, you're going to earn 800 and 1.2. This could be the boss's salary. So this person is desperate to leave. Are we prepared when we make this mandatory? It has been, but somehow with some lax. But now here we are saying it is mandatory for any domestic worker to leave this country. They must have gone through this pre-departure training, and also it's going to be more elaborate.
Robert, contrary to that, actually, all domestic workers have had to go through training. That's where the biggest focus has been. But now the government is saying in other areas as well. We spread it to other professionals as well, which is okay, is okay with us.
Well, that raises my fear.
No, you shouldn't, and it shouldn't. Reason being that besides the processing and the licensing of such training centers, it's still open, and the government has looked at the figures vis-a-vis the number of Ugandans. For example, in the Middle East, I'm sure, Robert, we have 111,000 Ugandans in the Middle East right now. So the government has weighed, and they've realized that if we can prepare all these migrant workers, not just domestic workers, that will help us solve some of these would-be, cyber, issues and stuff like that. Because you see, if the channels are clear and someone has been trained on what to do, there is an escalation ladder. Small problem, middle problem, big problem, or average problem, big problem. They're taken through that curriculum, and they are taught on how, if you have problem X, what do you do? If you have problem Y, what do you do? If you have problem Z, what do you do? If people have been prepared well, they know how to handle that. Like you said, these videos damage the image of Uganda, and many countries, they will think twice about signing and stuff like that with labor bilateral agreements with us. So for me, I think it's okay, Robert, and it shouldn't really bother you, because now that is going to answer and resolve some of these would-be, videos and audios and stuff like that. Yes, Robert.
Well, interestingly, our viewers, it is now time that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning. We're looking at the new guidelines of that is labor externalization, but also you can have a question for Ashe as long as it's relating to externalization of labor in Uganda, where we know many Ugandans have left for the Middle East. About 111,000 Ugandans in the Middle East is quite a big number, and day by day, I want to assure you, I was speaking to Vian Lujia, who is a spokesperson of the Civil Aviation Authority, and I was asking him, how many Ugandans do you think leave this country? He told me, Robert, almost 270 Ugandans daily leave Uganda for the Middle East as domestic workers or as security guards, as marketeers of some agencies there to go and do work. How much do they bring back home annually? Before COVID-19, it was about 1.4 billion US dollars. Every year, that is what we get. So this is a sector that is very profitable to our country, but also involves human life. and all safety measures must be put in place to ensure that it is safe for us to benefit from this sector as a nation where our people get employment. So the number is 0709 60 25 92. That is our WhatsApp number. Send us a message. You can send us an SMS. You can send us a WhatsApp message, and I'll be reading them out. Plus our various social media platforms. And Ashe will be responding to some of these as we look at externalization of labor, but to be more specific, the new guidelines. On the 27th, these were agreed upon and communicated on the 28th at the Uganda Media Center to the press and, of course, the companies that are in this noble cause. Chitandwe wants to call it a service. I would say yes, in this business of ensuring that they create employment for our people. So I'll be reading some of these messages. But Ashe,
right.
Also one of the things that I felt maybe among the guidelines that had to be given more diligence was the issue of sensitization.
Right, right.
Because one of the issues we are finding in externalization of labor, most in this particular area, is information gap. The information gap. How do we boost knowledge of people? Because you find a person being told, I'm taking you to Qatar, and they are willing to go. Because they don't know. They feel, I go to the Middle East. You find a person being taken by a person who has been working in some of these countries, and say, this person doesn't know I'm being trafficked. These poor girls don't know. So this gap of information, how best do we address it?
Right. Robert, I entirely agree with you, Robert, on that. We still have a very big job as far as sensitization of the public is concerned on what they're supposed to do. But what I can tell is that if you're out of Kampala, kindly seek audience with your district labor officer or your district internal security officer. They have this. Information of the registered companies, whose information you can use actually to find out more about these opportunities that are available in these particular companies. Then, if you're around Kampala, you can go to our Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. It's just right behind CPS, and you seek this information. But also, you can go to our association offices, the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies offices. We are located at BMK House, that is right next to Hotel Africana. We're at level 4. Once you reach there, you can seek this information, and it will be shared with you. But also, if you're not so sure and you want to find out, are these opportunities actually there, and maybe you're out of the country at the moment, but you're soon returning home, you can visit the ministry website, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development website. It has this information.
Well, I'll read one of the messages that has come in. Please keep these messages coming in, and Chitandwe will be responding to them. Right. Says, good morning, Chirabo. I'm David Odwal. We really love you guys of GMU. Thank you so much, David. I just want to know how long it takes to secure a link for someone calls, and if we can get the gentleman's number. There are many fraudsters out there. Okay, that is an issue he's raised, and Chitandwe will be responding to that. Right. Still, we are looking at some of the messages coming in. Okay, many are just thanking you for the good work, ensuring that you empower them with knowledge. But we want to look at something different, which is a message, or at least a question to Chitandwe. Thank you for appreciating him. Thank you for appreciating the program. But we want to know, what is your concern thereafter? Still looking at some of the messages coming in. Okay, we see. Please give us your number, your name, and where you're calling from. Well, one says, thank you so much, UBC TV, for the program. Okay, still they're appreciating. Well, Ashe, when we talk about sensitization,
right,
you've rightly said where people can go and get this information.
Right.
Which I agree with you. But also, one of the challenges I find is the bureaucracy. Believe you me,
right,
We've just been discussing the Dubai Expo, and the guest we had was very clear. He said the Uganda Investment Authority and government have come up with ways to ensure the ease doing business with Uganda. Now, when we come to labor externalization, one of the areas why we are seeing people leaving this country every day has been because it takes quite some time at times. Yes, Interpol was now removed. I think that is a step in the right direction.
Right.
So when a person is eager to go, and the Chitwande tells you, I can make you can leave Uganda maybe after a month. Sometimes it goes to 2, maybe. So this person then asks a Robert, who says, my brother is maybe in Saudi Arabia. He's a security guard. He went with a colleague. He's already there. So how do we best? What are your proposals to government?
Right.
How best we can reduce this longevity in getting to the desired destination for employment?
Robert, actually, on the contrary, the government has been able to hear our concerns in this particular area, because you see, we've had, like you've clearly pointed out about Interpol, it was taking long, but that was removed on specifically domestic workers and other categories, apart from security guards. Security guards have to go through that particular process because, of course, they are going to be armed and stuff like that. So that is that. But also, on the other hand, Robert, if you look at the new guidelines, the government has gone digital. Now, paperwork, hard copies, submission of hard copies and stuff like that is now phasing out. So everything will be done online. And actually that same information will be able to go to the Directorate of Immigration and stuff like that, so that all government agencies in this particular, that handle this particular sector, they have this information in real time. So I think the digitalization of the process, so they had done part of it, but now they've concluded the other part. So everything is going to be online. The embassies outside the country have the same information as the other government departments here as well. So I think the government has done well there, and I think on the issue of extending training days from 7 to 14, that is more of the sensitization drive we're doing to these candidates to make sure that when they leave this country, they are in position to handle themselves in that conduct that is really required by international standards, really.
Well, another question coming in from our viewer. Thank you so much. I am Sam Wanyenge. That is from Namisinda district. Are the agents right to ask money before they take the maids to Saudi Arabia?
No, agents are not supposed to ask for any money. In fact, work with the companies directly. Work with the companies directly. If you work with the companies directly, it's easier. Even if agents have taken you to a company, make sure that you seek this audience with the administration of that particular company. But they're not supposed to take money from the candidates.
Well, good morning, UBC. I'm Kakembo Abubakar. Why do boys pay too much money to go for work in the UAE?
Right. Actually, Kakembo, thank you very much for that particular question. The United Arab Emirates, like I had explained, most of the jobs we've been getting them through HR consultancies. And we're supposed to pay a certain commission to these HR consultancies. So that's the money that is requested to be paid by the candidates. But with the labor agreement that was signed by the government, awaiting implementation, that very soon will be history. Yes.
A very interesting one here. Good morning, presenter, and thanks for the program. If one finds a job from the ministry's website and goes ahead to apply either agency, how can one be rest assured of that agency taking him or her? I have been a culprit and of the same, but it's almost now a year and a half waiting and was charged for some input money.
Right. He's called who? What's the name?
He didn't give me the name. He didn't put the name.
Right. My simple advice to you is to seek audience with the Commissioner of Employment Services at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and kindly put your case right across him. I'm sure they will be able to handle that issue. But that is a very, very unfortunate thing. Probably there is misinformation and stuff like that. But kindly seek audience with the Commissioner, Employment Services at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Your issue will be definitely handled, I'm sure.
Well, now I go to SMS messages where I have says, "Hi, good morning UBC. This is Mpaji Abdul from Weyogerere. And my question is, if I do not want to use companies that take people out for work, is there any other government option I can use to get a casual job abroad?"
Right. Mpaji, what I can tell you is that if you've been able to secure employment by yourself in, let me say, a particular company, country, yes, if you take your information, your documents to the Ministry of Labour, yes, they'll vet it, and you can have an individual clearance to go and work in that particular country. That's what I can say. And
I'll read one final SMS, then I'll go back to the WhatsApp messages. That is, "Good morning, Uganda. Nice knowing more from the sector. Please keep it up, Mr. Chitandwe, and of course the team here." Well, keep the messages coming in. Thank you so much. Just use our WhatsApp number. You can send an SMS. You can send a WhatsApp message. That is on our number, and it is on your screen, and we'll be responding to that. And Ashe, still, we must understand this: Uganda externalizing labor also to the United Arab Emirates. There are countries that have been there before us. For example, the Philippines, and they are doing very well.
Right.
What do we need to benchmark from such countries? We've not seen so much complications coming out from the Philippines. I was trying to read a lot more regarding this sector. What have they done that we need to improve as Uganda? Because between you and me, this is a sector that is earning great for Uganda, that is answering the unemployment problem to Uganda, but if not well managed, we can end up losing the entire sector.
That's right. That's right. Robert, maybe just to correct you a bit, it's in the Middle East, not just particularly UAE, in the Middle East, and I'm going to point out an example of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's true the Philippines, they've been working. Actually, they've been working with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the last 40 years. Can you believe it, Robert?
Yes.
And for us, we've only been there for about 4 or 5. Only.
Good 5 years.
Yeah, good 5 years. But if you look at what we are doing now, and I'm glad, I think about 2 years ago, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development technical team flew to the Philippines, and they met their fellow technocrats to see how they can benchmark. I'm sure some of those lessons that were picked are the ones now, they're trying to implement. And I think with the current guidelines, they're in line with that particular benchmarking. And it's true. I continuously, and I've been hearing them. We are benchmarking. And I also heard that the labor bilateral agreement with Qatar was also benchmarked, with other countries that have also signed with Qatar. So I think this is good, and with what I'm seeing, for me, I'm convinced that we are heading the right direction, Robert. Yeah.
Very interesting, heading the right direction. Well, something interesting here. Someone said, okay, well, the last message was from Mami Chitandwe. Well, Mami Chitandwe said, thank you for the good work you're doing. That is Ashe. But also, still looking at this very interesting sector. I call it interesting because in one way or the other, Ugandans are able to get employment. But also, I'm over fear. The time may come when some services that were affordable by the average Ugandan may no longer be affordable. That's on a lighter note. Today, we have universal primary education, secondary as well, technical and all that. When you go to some countries, the challenges they're facing is because at one time they had a problem. They found a solution to that problem. Because another country had that problem. Now the same problem of which they were a solution to that country has now turned out to be a problem to them. By and large, today, don't you envisage a time where an average Ugandan may not be able to afford a domestic worker, to afford a maid at home?
Right.
Because a maid goes to the EU, to the Arab Emirates, whatever country they go to, if we continue signing these bilateral agreements,
Right.
earning between 1M and 800,000. No one can afford that in Uganda, average Ugandans.
Right.
And today, for average family, getting a maid is becoming a problem.
Right.
Oh, tell you, but why so don't we see this problem at one day being a problem of Ugandans?
Right. Robert, thank you very much for that very interesting question. But you see, on the other hand, Robert, we are focusing on prosperity for all, remember. And we want all families to be transformed. You know, we want to uplift, you know, Ugandans, so that they are able to be financially independent. You know, we're in the Independence Week right now. So that financial independence is what we're looking for. That's why I was telling you, for us, it's a service. We want to see Ugandans grow. We want to see Ugandans to be able to look after their families. When they grow, those are less issues for the government. So if we're focusing on uplifting Ugandans, then for me, I think the rules of economy or economics, whatever they want to call it, I'm not an economist, Robert, they will definitely take charge at that particular moment or time you're trying to envisage. But I think also, if you look at these countries, for example, in the UK, it's true, hiring a nanny is a very, very expensive thing. But if you look at the other side of the coin, you realize that even a nanny in this particular country is able to drive a car, is able to mortgage a house. So that's the kind of scenario, Robert, we are looking for. And I think for me, it's a very positive thing. Yes, Robert.
Well, actually, time is not so much on our side. I just want to thank people who have sent in messages.
Right.
Let me have your final remarks.
Right. I know, Robert, there was a question of my number. My number is 0707 681 801. If you call that number, you reach. It's my office line, yes, but you'll be able to reach me. It's 0707 681 801. You'll be able to reach me. If you're in the areas of Kampala, you can also visit my office in Jazzy Limited. We are located at Machindye, Chizungu, plot 1154. You can reach us, and then we are able to interact more. Thank you so much, Robert, and thank you, viewers.
Well, thank you so much, Ashe, for this elaborate discussion. Just like someone has really said, who said that I'm Dennis from Njazi. Thank you so much for sensitization about labor externalization. You have really brought happiness to many people and lives in this country. Well, I want to thank you so much for these messages, and of course, those are not being able to read, I'll forward them to Ashe, and maybe in one way or the other, we'll find a way of getting back to you and giving you feedback on that question. Let's embrace this sector. Let's ensure we have proper regulation, and let us Ugandans be more patriotic, because it has created employment for many people, and we can only sustain it with proper policies and also being supportive in any way. Sometimes we have this element of seeing negativity even where there is so much positivity. Have a lovely day. God bless you. I'll leave you with Ruben to take you through the world of sports.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning.